Hello, welcome to Supernova Labs. Bit of a funny day. Had a meeting with Issa this morning, which kind of, I don't know whether it went anywhere. But also over the weekend we released our first product. So I am now officially a Spaceplane salesman. So we're now selling little 3D printed space planes, but they're in sintered steel. So if you go on our Etsy shop, you can buy a steel version of this. It's about £100, which might seem expensive, but that's just the cost of sintering metal at the minute. Like, that's just how much it costs. It's in high temperature steel, so it's the same one that we're going to be using to do the wind tunnel testing down the road. And yeah, I mean, you can own a piece of it on our journey to space, right? Yeah, it's funny. I just feel a lot of anxiety today. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by financials and the business model and how I'm going to get this to work. Or perhaps it's the fact that I'm just on decaf coffee at the minute. Oh, I'm trying to like wean myself off caffeine, and oh my goodness, I am sleeping better. I am waking up like without feeling like I've been hit by a brick. It feels great. Why do people drink caffeine? It's not worth it. It could just be Monday. It could just be Monday. I'll admit, I feel a bit deflated by the meeting with Issa. Like, they ended it early after I went through everything to do with the space plane, and it's like, yeah, I can kind of tell that I'm not going to be getting a response from that. But it's just like, where does that leave me? Because there's no way I can get this to work without navigating all these political and bureaucratic structures. And like, I don't know if it's just me, but there is something about the fact that there's just so much churn in these organizations that it's like trying to build a foundation on quicksand. Like, every single time that I find a footing, like, I mean, I was in touch with the head of the European Space Agency, Jan Werner. As a result of all our time we were working in Europe and ending up at the International Space University. But then he leaves, Josef Aschbacher comes in, now I've lost that point of contact, it's not available to me anymore. Which makes the job of getting the spaceplane built much harder. And it's becoming increasingly necessary as well. Like, I mean, I think one of the big news stories in space recently, Ariane Space are going to subsidize their launches for the Amazon Kuiper, what do you call it, satellite constellation, but to the tune of about 75 million per launch, which is the cost to build 3 whole Falcon 9 rockets. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's completely obscene. Like, to consider this as like an option in a capitalist economy is insanity. In fact, they're subsidizing it more than the cost of the launch. Wait. No, they're subsidizing it more than it would cost to launch them on SpaceX. On Falcon 9s. That's it. It's just absurd. Like, I just don't know what's going through the minds of people that are organizing the space industry in Europe at the minute. It just seems like they're just throwing away money. And it's like 75 million per launch. Bloody hell, I could build a whole bloody space plane for that. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating because I don't know who these people are that are making these decisions. And I can't contact them. And I don't know how to navigate and find them to, like, shake them. Tell them, come on, get your head in the game. There was another meeting today with the Space Agency Accelerator about business models and all this kind of thing. And one of the questions I was asking is, well, how do you build a business model in the context of the UK space market, where in the US there's easy and fluid access to capital, like there's a lot of implicit knowledge of people that worked on the Apollo program, grandfathers that worked on the Apollo program, there's the machine shops they use, there's all of the processes and the materials still available, and all of that knowledge like still within the society even though it is decaying off. The UK just doesn't have that. So there's a lot of implicit work that we need to do to get started before we even get to the point of competing. And I don't know whether that gets factored into a lot of plans in the UK. I just think people think that all this stuff comes out of nowhere, and that you can just kind of like throw money at a problem and then magic a space plane or like a spacecraft comes out of it. I just feel lost right now. Feel a bit lost. But as I've been saying in previous videos, right? You feel lost. You produce something small, like a steel space plane that you can buy. Did I tell you that I'm selling space planes? Please buy the space planes. This is... I need people to buy the space planes so I can reinvest the profits in buying the time on a wind tunnel to actually test it. Oh man, I am just a terrible businessman. Like I don't have it in me to bullshit people about like, oh yeah, like here's my profit margin, like, but I'm not going to tell you about my profit margin. Like, this is what I'm selling, and it's actually worth this. It's like, no, this is what the profits are going towards. I don't know, like, it just feels more honest. Perhaps I'm completely wrong-headed about it. I come from an old school of business where adverts would tell you about the product. So this is a 60 millimeters space plane made in plastic PLA in white, right? But this is not how you sell things. The way you sell things is like, so how do you want to go to space? And you currently don't have the means to go. What if I told you that by purchasing one of these small space planes, you could own a piece of that future where we all live and work in space? It's funny, I just can't do it with a straight face. Oh, blimey, what we're going to do. What we're going to do. Got micro learnings to do this week. Some, like, business. What is it? Value propositions and validating problems and solutions and creating customer personas and all this kind of thing. All necessary work. All necessary work. Social proof. Right? I have a hard enough time as it is. Proving that what I'm talking about is valid. So you need to build a scaffolding around it so I can lend some credibility to what I'm saying. Not that that should just be implicit anyway. It came up again in the meetings that there's not a single in-space business that makes profit without a government contract. That is crazy to me. It just seems like all these like massive businesses, like they're like launching rockets into space. They're talking about doing fueling in space. They're talking about going to the moon. They're talking about setting Moon Village Association villages up. They're talking about going to asteroids. They're going to mine those asteroids. And the reality is, like, not a single person has managed to make money in low Earth orbit. Never mind any further. Like, just by providing services in orbit. Like, this is so fundamental. There need to be like businesses that can make profit in low Earth orbit without needing government contracts. Like, we need to like get like cut that umbilical cord if there's going to be any future in space. I mean, it's really important. It's like I just don't think there's anything more important. But it's not easy. It's not. Sorry. It's not easy, but it's also not hard. Like, there are a lot of satellites out there that need servicing, and it's not that expensive to launch things to orbit anymore. It's just like people are so risk averse that they avoid it, and people don't see the value in space anymore. Like, I think I was speaking to, like, if you watch one of my earlier videos where I'm speaking to Herb Baker, he was saying, it's like, well, with all the like flat earthers and like people that don't believe into the moon and all this kind of thing, like, you end up almost like trying to protect yourself a little bit, and you don't speak to those people anymore. You only end up speaking to the people that are within your own sphere. I just think that's so dangerous, because then people forget why going to space is so important. They forget that all the satellites and all the imaging technologies that we need to look through the atmosphere to understand how it works with climate change is up there. They don't understand that having humans in space is teaching us more about human physiology than we've learned in the past 100 years. And as the one thing that I think is completely understated is being able to live and work in environments that are hostile to life are going to be increasingly necessary here on Earth. As the thing about climate change is, as the equator basically becomes unlivable, there are going to need to be solutions for the people that live there to live. So either you're going to be putting them in domes that have a managed atmosphere and a humidity, and like can reclaim the water out of the air, like bloody June. Or if even there's some algal bloom as a result of all the acidification of the oceans, methane being released, that sucks up all the oxygen, and we need to build the infrastructure to breathe on Earth. I mean, these are pretty intense examples. The chances are very slim that they would happen. Let me just lay that out, just so everybody's not panicking. But you wouldn't know how to do that. Those risks would not be mitigated unless you had already developed that stuff for space. I think, yeah, it's very easy for people like Elon to say, oh yeah, we need to go to Mars, right? Go to Mars, right? Have another planet so human extinction is mitigated, right? But it's like all the bits and all the infrastructure you would need to get to that point, like, that's the important stuff. That's the important stuff. It's the innovations, it's the inventions, it's the material science, it's the space planes that you need to build to get to that point. I'm not talking about going to Mars. I'm talking about just getting to low Earth orbit and commercializing low Earth orbit with space planes. Sorry, I care about this quite deeply. Yeah, I feel very frustrated right now. Frustrated, but like not like more frustrated than I've ever been. Like, it's just a case of managing it and just cracking on, isn't it? Just keep building something small every day, and then eventually what is impossible becomes inevitable. therein is the essence of magic. But anyway, I need to get on. I'm sure you're bored to tears. I hope you have a wonderful week. Try drinking less caffeine. Give it buy decaf coffee. Try it for 4 days. I bet you'll be sleeping better. Well, I am at least. So, I mean, if it works for me, it'll work for anybody. Have a good week. I'll speak to you soon.